What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Next Level Teaching. I'm your host, Jeremy Anderson, here with my super dope co-host, Miss Tori Rodriguez, a.k.a. T-Rod. What's up?
How are you, Jeremy?
I'm amazing. How you feeling?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. You know, just getting back into things.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm super excited. We have Linn Zamora here with us today. I'm excited to hear what she has to say. She's actually an art teacher, so this is going to be something different for us. Yep. And I'm excited for our teachers of the arts out there to hear what she has to say. Yep. But before we hop on in with Linn, why don't you first tell our listeners who we are here at Next Level Teaching Podcast?
Listen and listen closely. We want you to laugh, we want you to learn, and we want you to live your best life. So with every episode, it's our goal for you to laugh at something, you know what I'm saying, because we can be goofy. We like to have a good time, right?
Yep.
You know, so we want you to learn something new, and we want you to take this and apply it so you can live your best life out here in the world. So I'm excited. And you know how you can help us out? If you could write a review. Let us know how we're doing and rate us, whether you're listening to it on Spotify or Google Play or Apple. Show us some love and give us a rating, but not just any rating.
Well, I will say our favorite kind of rating is a 5-star rating.
5-star. Give me a 5-piece and a biscuit.
And I'm kind of hungry.
So and a biscuit.
Now you make me hungry.
Please. Give us a 5-star rating.
So, definitely let us know how we're doing. We enjoy going through and actually reading the reviews and seeing what you guys are saying. And it seems like there's some people out there that are really enjoying this.
Oh, yeah. We're in like a dozen different countries now.
Nice. Yeah. Who do we just add on?
Spain and
Sweden?
And Sweden.
Yeah.
And, it's all over.
So I'm excited. And don't forget to tell your friends about this, y'all. Don't forget to share us on Instagram.
No. If you want to get tagged, if you want us to shout you out and show you some love, then tag us at Next Level Teaching. Yeah. Watch how we show you some love. Yeah. Slide in our DMs and holler at us.
Only time we advise that.
Right. Definitely. Not my personal one. You finna have my wife. You don't want no smoke with Tracy. But the Instagram DM with Next Level Teaching all day. Let's get it. Yep.
All right. So today here with us, we have Linn Zamora, and she has been teaching art for 16 years, and she's worked elementary, middle, and high school.
She's OG in the game.
She got the whole gamut going, so she's seen it all. So she's also a mom of 2 beautiful girls, and we've actually had the pleasure of having her husband on here. And I actually was able to teach with her husband for a couple of years, and I've heard nothing but amazing things about Linn. So I'm excited to hear more about you. And I'm excited to hear about an art teacher, an electives perspective, because that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't hear as much from, especially a teacher of the arts, because people are like, oh, well, the arts are dying and that's the first thing to go. And I, as a person who's been dancing her whole entire life, and I have a bunch of friends that are singers or musicians or artists themselves, photographers, like the arts are so unbelievably important. And I think that this like conversation of the arts becoming a dying elective is so sad to me and so frustrating. And so I'm excited to have your voice here on with us today.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share my voice.
And you know what is interesting though, is even though they say it's dying and not as popular in the school system, out in the culture, in the community, it is thriving.
It's thriving.
Absolutely.
On so
Everyone's
many
doing
levels. So it's just like, that's a whole nother conversation that we'll have to have. Right? Because that means as educators, as systems, there are some things that we're not doing, because out here, when you're out in the communities and you're out in the world, whether you're in the country, I've been to some country schools and I've seen some of the talent that these kids have. And I've seen the urban, inner city suburbs. It's everywhere. But why does it seem like it's struggling in the school? So we'll talk about that.
Okay. All right.
First, tell us, how did you even get into education? Like, when did you, 2 questions. When did you first know that you were called? Because tell them, Tori, we don't think this is a career, right?
So we say here at Next Level Teaching that in order to be a teacher, you have to be called, but you also have to be a little crazy.
Just a little bit.
Because let's be honest, especially working with these kids that are at this age where there's like hormones and puberty and all the things. You got to be a little crazy in order to handle it, in order to love it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, tell us about your story.
There's a long story, but I knew that I was called, so to speak. I've always loved children, and I figured out that I loved art later on. And I was working in an art gallery, and I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is the glam job.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm going to do. And I just found myself dealing with the other side of the art world where I had to talk with people who had a lot of money, and they were willing to throw a lot of that money on artwork that was done by these artists who, this is what they need to put food on the table.
Yeah.
And the gallery would take a percentage of whatever their sale was, and they were riding in their little like jalopy cars. And I just felt like there was I don't know, I just saw it as some kind of an injustice in thinking, like you said, that the arts aren't really funded as much in schools or respected as much in schools, in the school setting. And I was just like, how can I keep doing this? Like, I want to teach the kids who are going to be the rising artists, who are going to be selling their work to these people, and they need to know how to deal with that. They need to know how to understand it, and they need to know how to market themselves and what people want and all that kind of, I mean, I just felt like it was my duty to be on the other side of that.
So you were like an insider.
Yeah.
You had like an in. You were like, okay, I see some things here. Let me cross over and make sure this continues to grow and thrive.
Yeah. So I started as my major was a early childhood education major.
Okay.
And then through a bunch of different experiences, I ended up changing it to art.
Okay.
And so there, I went that direction. So after working in that art gallery and kind of making that decision, I went back and I got my master's in art education.
Nice.
And then got right into it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Interesting.
And I like kind of what Jeremy said. You're a little bit of an insider with it. You were talking about how kids, like how these artists eventually will market themselves and what people are looking for, and knowing that and being able to speak to that toward these kids, because there are so many kids that I've had in my classroom that I notice that they're not paying attention, and so I walk by to kind of like tap their desk and get them back on task, and they're drawing, and I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. This is amazing. You have, a skill, like a beautiful craft.
I was going to write you up, but this is really good.
Yeah.
So how about you just draw a picture from me instead?
I bet they were listening to every last word you said while they were doing that.
Yes.
So you'd be surprised. I mean, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And that is so
Happens a
true.
lot.
And I think that that's something that we have to remember as educators is not everyone has to be looking at exactly what
Different
they're doing.
learning
Some
styles.
people are just, they're auditory learners and they can take it all in. And I've heard some people even say, like, I can remember what that person was saying as I was drawing this particular part, this particular stroke. Like, this is what they were saying, because that has to, like, I don't know.
It does something.
Yes,
Does
there's like a connection.
There's a connection. I do it at faculty meetings, but
Okay.
just helps me get through
So
it.
you get it. So you get the kids. You're like, hey, I'm the same way.
Yeah, like I understand, I only ask that they look at me and look like they're paying attention when I'm trying to explain, give them instructions on something.
Right.
But other than that, I know my kids and I know what they're doing,
Right.
especially the ones that are very, that's their gift.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So tell us, like, with you being in this experience, I'm sure you've come across some kids with you having this role, you being a pioneer for art and education in the school districts, right? Have you had a student that came in that was just like, oh, this art, like, it's so boring, it's so corny, whatever, but then had like a deep love for it, and then you were like, okay, wow, you know what I'm saying? Or a student that maybe was a bit apprehensive or didn't really connect, but then they found a love or a passion for art?
Well, I had there's two, but their art was never boring.
Okay.
They kind of, I say that they kind of changed my life in a way, because this was after I had taught elementary school. I moved into a middle school, and they, I realized immediately that they had a gift. I saw that they had a gift, and I just kind of pushed with it. But one of them, she would come. She wasn't even in my class. She wasn't in my class, but she would come and she would get instruction from me in the morning and in between. And she couldn't take my class because she was taking orchestra, which is an elective situation, in order to fit some credits in, you can't always fit in the visual arts. And so she would come on her own time, and eventually she would she would illustrate something that eventually won her a trip, and me, a trip to Turkey.
Wow.
So we went on a 10-day trip to Turkey because of her illustration on, it was a beautiful tree, and it was about how social media affects us as human beings. And it was gorgeous. I mean, it was fantastic. And she would come in every day and she would work on it. And I would give her some tips and be like, you know, this is good, add this, you know, let's try this. And that, I mean, that changed my life. I mean, just that one trip. It was a 10-day trip with her. And I mean, I still keep in touch with her, and she's still doing stuff, and she's doing commissions now. And, you know, so I'm always kind of keeping up with her. But then I had another one, same thing. Kid from China, didn't know any English, didn't, you know, one of his teachers actually brought him to me and said, look what he can do. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, you know. And then he's like, I'll bring you another one, you know, I'll bring you something, in his broken accent. And he was in 6th grade. And he came one morning and he brought me this canvas and he asked for my opinion. And it was like a direct copy of a Rembrandt. Oh. And I just stood there and I told him, I was like, I'm going to need to get back to you. Right. Because at this point, I just felt all of my qualification just like, I can't help you. Like, this is way beyond, you know, what I can do. And yeah, he was another one that just like through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I mean, he ended up going in my class. They put him in my class, but he would be in the back of the room just doing his own thing.
And you let him be.
And I just let him, and then I'd give him suggestions. And he also won that contest. So that following year, I had 2 other students. I didn't go that second year, but I had another teacher step in. But I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what was happening. Wow. You know, I couldn't believe that these kids, and the school too, I think that they really started to realize that the art could bring, I mean, my principal loved me. She loved That's important me because we were bringing so much attention to our school, you know, through the community and through stories and all this stuff. And other kids also started to take notice, and they wanted to participate, and they would show up in my room and they would participate and stuff. So that definitely, those kids. Yeah.
I'm sure that you could also say that there are some times where you had some students in your class where like art saved them, right? Or it was like, okay, they don't feel understood, but now they get to express.
Yeah. Yes.
I know I've counseled some students who were like, when I'm speaking at schools and principals, like, can you talk to these kids? And like, kids are so angry and they don't want to talk or share, but they'll put it in a picture. Yeah. Can you like maybe talk to that? Because there are some teachers, they don't understand the kids, but if you give them pen and paper and they can write it, whether it's spoken word, whether it's a poem, you know what I'm saying, or whether it's a picture, some art to express how they feel.
So important. I think that's why they give me a lot of special ed kids because in my class, because I mean, they just end up being so great for me. You know, when you have a conversation with other teachers and they say so-and-so is so terrible, or, you know, and then you're just like, oh, I don't see any of that. I don't see that because I'm allowing them to express themselves, or I'm allowing them to you know, to just speak through their illustrations and what they're going through. I find that I have a big responsibility to my kids for that reason, because there's so much of that. And I've had students that really didn't know that they had that gift within them either. And once they started, you know, kind of opening up and trying it, then they just, you know, they blossom and they start to grow, and you really do see I mean, it's such a reward to see it later on and be like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, and I want to speak to that because I'll say I've been one of those teachers. My best friend is our course teacher at my school. And so we have conversations all the time. And every now and then I'll pop into her class to just, especially if I'm having a rough day, to just get that like beautiful breath of those kids, not physical breath, but like, you know, just their voices. Not these days, especially not these days. But you know, just to hear their voices, it feels so good. And there was one day where I had a student that was in my math class struggling. She was just struggling so bad, and I did everything I could, and I just couldn't figure out how to help her. It felt like she just wasn't retaining it. And then I heard her sing, and I was like, whoa. And she had a solo.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that's so important about keeping the arts is it is their outlet for so many of them.
It's such a holistic part of a person's education.
Yeah.
I mean, because I never put pressure on my kids the first day that they're in there. I don't care if they're a Picasso or a Van Gogh or, that's not what my class is about, because they usually come in and they're always apprehensive. Like, I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to draw. And I say, if you know how to write your name, then you can draw, because letters are lines, and line is an element of art. So I have to start from the beginning.
There's my
That's good.
But yeah, because and I just want to take that pressure off, because I myself as an artist feel that pressure sometimes, because I tell them, I'm like, I'm an adult and I'm in this, and I still look at my stuff and just the judgment just comes, and I just have to kind of shut it down, and I have to shut down the inner critic always, and just know that art is something that is not solid, and it's not finite like a math problem. Art is like a process. It's a process. So it's not about the final outcome. It's what you learn along the way.
That's beautiful.
So
and isn't that life though?
Yes, I was about
absolutely.
to say, that's life.
Yeah.
And there are so many kids who a lot of times in other classes, they might not do good in political science, they might not do good in math, right? But when it comes to art, because they can express themselves, it's like they open up whole new portals. And so I think it's interesting. What if I told you that I had a little artist within me?
Do you? I would want to see. I want to see.
I wouldn't share this with anybody else. But I have a few pieces I did upstairs. I'll show you.
I would love to see them.
Leave.
I would love to see them.
And I remember being in school, because I had extreme ADHD and other learning disabilities. Like, I really struggled focusing. I could be listening to you, and 30 seconds later, that leak in the ceiling looks like a butterfly. You know what I'm saying? And then I remember drawing, but I remember like doing like sketch and like calligraphy, and then I would draw like action figures. And I never thought of like doing art as a passion. But then when we built our home, it's like I got all these walls. I can buy some pieces, but maybe I can do. And it's like it's therapeutic for me. I'm not trying to sell any pieces. I'm not like that, but it's in me. You know what I'm saying? And I remember being all over the place. What I love, what had my ears perk up, is when you said that some teachers would be like, oh, these kids are having all these issues. And you was like, I don't see it. You know why you can see it? It's because we we talk about teaching by faith and not by sight. But they focused on what was wrong. But you focused on what was strong. So we could talk about that, right? Like, we train educators, right? Not to focus on what's wrong with the kids. We can get to that. But let's put a focus on what's strong with them. And that's when we can see the greatness inside them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's really where it is. Because a lot of my class is also one that in high school, it's a little different in middle and elementary, but in high school, for the most part, kids are choosing to take that class.
Okay.
And but I do have the kids who are in there just to get that credit. So that's another thing. Whether you're going to be an artist or not, what you get out of this class is going to help you everywhere else. There's a little TED Talk video that I show them about how like someone in forensics, detective, in the medical field, they need to be very observant and they need to be very detailed and kind of see things that other people don't. And that kind of training in art by looking at artwork, not necessarily making it, but just looking at it. Like you said, I see a leak in the ceiling, but somebody might not have seen that. Somebody might miss that. And in forensics and in, crime scenes and all that stuff, I mean, art is really about training your eye to be more observant of those details. And so kids who are not necessarily good at drawing, right? Like they're not going to be artists, or that's not their thing. It's total. I mean,
it's okay, but you can still appreciate
it. You can appreciate it, and the skills that are kind of growing and the neurons that are firing, that's going to go and take you further wherever it is, because, whether it's in math or in language arts. Because I remember how it, I didn't take art in high school. I was in drama. I was a thespian, but I remember my language arts class just reading through some really vivid and just illustrative words, where I just could, in my brain, I could see all these images, and I look back on that now, and I think, that's part of where all these things that I have,
Right.
my observations
Right.
and my little details and things that I try to see. So I try to impart that into my kids and whoever comes in, like it doesn't matter if you're going to walk out of here an artist or if you're going to go in the arts industry, which by the way is huge.
Right.
Yes.
Huge.
Right.
So I don't know why they want to take it away, but
Yes. Right.
it's you are learning skills, and it's always been our fight. Like art has always been the underdog.
Yep.
Right.
It's always like how do we prove it? There's so many studies out there and so many statistics that show that having art in a kid's education is so beneficial, and it does all kinds of stuff. But we don't look at that.
No.
People don't look at that. I mean, I don't. It's
Well,
all.
and we want to get kids college and career ready, right? That's what we talk about.
Yeah.
That's the big phrase. But their career could be in the arts.
Yeah, that could be in the arts, and you can go to art school, or you can just go. And now on social media, you don't have to go to school.
I have a really good friend who his sister is blowing up right now on social media, and she was like, "I just started this in January."
Yeah.
And she is, girl was just on the Today Show the other day.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is wide open, and it's been like another portal to connecting with their purpose, their passion, their greatness within them.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a student? I have to ask. Some teachers, I'm like, tell us about that one student, but you're a little different. Have you ever had a kid that like just drove you crazy, that made you say, okay, like, maybe you have to reevaluate things?
Yeah. I've had, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Good
I've
to
had
know
some.
that it's also in the electives.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some that, they
alone.
drove me crazy, but sometimes I would just have to laugh because they were funny.
Right,
you know
right,
what I mean?
right,
Like
right.
it was, I wanted to, but it
that
was
really good though.
It was funny. But yeah, they're human beings and they're people, and we're not always going to mix with all people.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a lesson in love
Yeah.
and patience, and it was just we were not gonna get along. So we got to a point where we respected each other's space.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we just kind of kept it moving, and and he did work for me, and he did what he was supposed to do, but it was definitely one of those things like, okay, when he, come June or May, it's like, oh, see ya.
See ya. When I
See
need
you
ya.
later.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So, those kids are around, but that's life too.
But that's okay.
People,
and I love the fact that you were like, hey, you're not my person like that,
Yeah.
but I respect you. You
Yeah.
respect me.
Yeah.
We have our boundaries. You do your thing. I do my thing. And and that's okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to us trying to force and like be that super teacher. Like you're going to get this, you're going to learn. It's just like, you know what? You're not really gelling.
Yeah.
But we're together. So let's just do what we got to do. Let's just get through this year.
Oh, that just reminds me of one kid that I had like my first year where he was like, have you Googled me?
Oh, really?
So I should Google him now, see what he's doing now.
Do tell. So that's what he opened with. Like,
he's like, have you Googled me?
So meaning like he was really talented or really bad?
No, he was a football player.
Oh.
So, because I get those too, because they need the credit. They need an art credit, and they don't want to go into chorus, or they don't want to go into theater or dance, so they end up in my class.
Dance?
Right.
Yeah. So,
Right.
and I've had some great athletes in my class. They've been wonderful. Not the best artists, so to speak, but really great students and really respectful human beings. And they've been wonderful. And then others that just, it's just not their thing. It's not their thing.
Well, I want to go back to what you said, though, about how we don't all necessarily gel together.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because I'll say I had a group of students this past year that they did, like there were a couple of them that didn't get along with a couple other kids in the class. And it was a learning moment. And I think that that's something that's so important to remember, as well as everything that we do as educators. We're continuing to teach them life skills.
Life skills, yeah.
You're not going to get along with everyone. You may not get along with your boss, but guess what?
Right.
You got to work for
Right.
them,
Welcome
and you
to
don't
the
get to
real
change
world.
that.
Yeah.
So how do you continue to, like you said, just respect each other's space in that, and learn how to coexist in a place without going at each other's throats all the time. And I think that that's such a great learning opportunity that you gave him to see, okay, we may not, but I'm not going to continue to come at you Because I'm going to respect your space. I'm going to respect that we may not gel as people, and that's okay. So hopefully in the future, if he has other people that he doesn't gel with, that's okay.
Because sometimes as educators, they can tend to almost be a bully in a sense. It's like there's a balance of, I want to teach, there's got to be order, I need you to follow my instructions, but it's just also like, okay, let me see what's going on in your world though. Maybe I should back up. Like there's a reason that you're standoffish, or there's a reason that you're bucking. Let me just take some time and figure out what's going on in your world and give you some space without trying to push this. Because for some kids, we got to know their personality style. Some kids you push, they're going to just build up a wall. And they're going to just hunker down more. So you got to kind of, you got to kind of know the ones. I think it was really wise that you say, you know what? You do. I'm going to do me. Here's some stuff. I'm going to give you your space. And let's just get through this year. I think that's refreshing.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to. It's what they call building relationships, where it's like they kind of want to drive it into teachers, like build relationships. But that's what we should be doing anyway, because they're people. They're little people, but they're people. And we have our bad days. And we have bad, I remember my first 3 years teaching. It was in a Title I school, a really bad area in Miami. It was rough. Thank God for those 3 years, because I could
You could teach anything now. That's exactly how I feel.
Babe, I was formed in the dark.
My first 3 years with Victor, I feel that way too.
No, it was, so it was good. It was like I was thrown to the wolves, and I lost my train of thought for that. But
no, but I think you were going to talk about how challenging.
Once I started making my first phone calls home, in a situation where some of my kids were homeless, or they're living with 4 or 5 families in one little apartment or whatever. I'm on the phone and I can hear all this screaming and all this madness, and then I just kind of had an epiphany, oh, this is why. This is why he speaks so loudly in my, this is just what he goes home to. And I'm, he's only in school 10 months out of the year, but, or that specific time, but what he goes home, that's what he lives with. That's what he's, so it was you really getting to know where they come from and who they are is really going to determine your interaction, your relationship, your interaction.
Right. Because now if you have Cynthia and you call Cynthia's home and it's quiet, the mother asks hello, it's a completely, you're like, okay, I can see why Cynthia's. But when you call and you hear baby screaming and crying, you hear people fussing, kids laughing, running around, who is this? It's like, okay, they have to be loud just to let their voice get heard.
Right.
But it helps shift your perspective. And so I bet you probably kind of toned it down some, because you was like, okay, I get it. I don't even have to. I was just checking in. Yeah, he's great. Okay, bye, because you get it.
A big learning experience that was, because
So tell us, a lot of times in the work we do in the educational space, a lot of the challenges don't necessarily come from the parents or the kids. Sometimes it can come from administration, the system itself. Can you tell us about that almost breaking point where you almost? Because I'm sure there's some educators out here who could really, encourage or, use some encouragement to hear you get them. Is there a moment where
the moment where I was going to go to Target and fill out an application?
Right.
Is that what you're
Tell
talking
us
about?
that moment. Yeah.
Exactly. That's it.
Because you got the funky red glasses too. I could see you being a senior VP.
I just couldn't. Yeah. This was one. It was the school I worked at. I worked at a middle school for 6 years, and it was there were fights. We always that's just something that happens. Most of the time they didn't happen in my classroom, but it was kind of one of those things where I knew who was fighting, or I knew what was going on, or I knew there was a fight. But this one, I was trying. They want you to take your kids outside of the classroom and give them all these other experiences, and and give them all this new stuff, and these kids, so I decided to do this project on Kara Walker, and I don't know if you know the artist Kara Walker, but her art is based on these silhouettes of these black silhouettes telling the stories of African American history.
Okay.
And so they're big black silhouettes on the wall against a white wall. She's the High Museum has one, and she's all over. She's super
Okay.
Big. You look around.
Okay.
Check.
Yeah.
In the process right now.
Kara with a K, Kara Walker. And so we were doing that with some butcher paper. I had the kids like lay down in the hallway. We're in the hallway. We're tracing bodies, and we're just cutting them out. Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's what that's what my administration wants. That's what the county wants. But while I'm outside in the hallway, right outside my classroom, trying to give these kids an extra, experience, these two kids get into it in my room.
Oh,
and then they start, and then they, bring it outside, and then they won't stop. And it was one kid who he just saw red. And I got in front of him, which you're not supposed to do. And I was like, hey, so I was trying to whisper in his ear or tell him in his ear, like, stop. And he was just seeing red. And once all that got broken up, I just kind of went back in my classroom and I was like, that's it. That's it. Because I just can't, I just was so disheartened and so discouraged. I was like, I can't, a lot of teachers are like, that's why we can't get anything nice. Because they break stuff, or that's why we can't do these things because if we're not watching them, these things happen, and it just got me, and I don't think anything happened after that. Like I don't think they were disciplined. I think they got some kind of slap in the hand or something, and I just felt like, oh, I just can't. Yeah, I can't do this again, and and it was one of those times where I was like, if I don't do something, if I don't change schools or grade levels or something, then I'm going to be in trouble.
Wow.
Because this is going to break my heart, into teeny little pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. And so often it happens and there are always those moments, right? But can you talk about like what was it the I'm not going to let it break me? Was it I can't think of all the other kids I'd be letting down? Like, think about what that mental process was.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because you see all the other, those instances really do take up a big chunk of your thoughts on what you do in your environment. So you have to kind of, I had to take a breather. I had my planning period after, so it was good. So I had my good cry, and I had a really good supportive, group of people that were with me, some, colleagues. Right. But it's really, really hard to think about that. I later then transferred to another school, which was, I think, just what I needed. But God knew that's just what I needed. But it was hard to have to tell my other kids, the ones that were always there, the ones that really did want to learn, the ones that were, because it was just two kids. Yeah. Out of, all those kids that you get that just kind of, and they're good kids, you know, I welcomed them back in open arms. You know what I mean? No judgment. You had a bad day. This is what happened, but still, it just,
it takes a toll.
It takes a toll physically and emotionally.
It definitely does. But I like what Jeremy said as well, thinking about the kids, the other kids in there, because I mean, I went and looked her up, and what beautiful art.
Kara Walker.
And just the opportunities that you were able to give your students, though.
It's the selfless.
Yeah. And it is so hard at times when you have those moments. I've definitely had my fair share of fights.
It discourages you from doing it again. Yeah. Because then it's like we weren't done with that project. So I'm like, oh, do I keep doing this? Because I can't be in two places at once, And and that was like the big thing is like supervision at all times. I'm like, but wait a minute.
Right. But it's your love for the art.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's your love for the kids.
Yeah.
That supersedes it all, right?
Yes, it does.
Because if it was just a love for the arts, you wouldn't have went into school. You'd have just,
done something.
continued on.
Well, and you stepped in.
Right.
Yeah. You stepped in.
Yeah, with the whisper. Which was risky.
It is.
But that's why we say teachers are called a little crazy.
Yeah. It is scary to step in. I've stepped in the middle twice as well, and we are told not to. And
it was like a first impulse.
Oh yeah, I got hit.
Wow.
Well, I got hit by the other one. But I mean, it was. Yeah, I mean, like you do, like it does. It takes. It drains you.
I was done for the day, and that was like in the morning. But then
you hit the reset.
Yeah. I mean, I needed to hit it.
You know what this reminds me of?
And other kids would come in later on that day and check on me because they knew.
And that's I think what continues to bring us back is thinking about like those other kids that come in. I mean, because my kids did the same thing. They were like, Miss Rod, you got hit. And I didn't know I got hit in the midst of it because the adrenaline. And they were like, you got hit. Are you okay?
And then you're like, that's why my arm feels. That's why my jaws are
It was my neck. Yeah. I was like, ooh. But they check in on you because they love you, you know?
So Representative John Lewis, he's recently passed.
Yes.
45 plus times he got arrested. He kept showing up.
And he kept going.
He kept showing up. And he kept showing up.
Yeah.
And I've really sensed that same spirit inside you. It's just like, you know what? This is a bad day. It's a really crappy day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this wasn't right. I used my planning period to cry.
Yeah.
I know a lot of teachers call it their crying period.
Oh, yeah, it's a crying period. Yeah.
Like, it's really my crying period. Right. Right. But you keep showing up.
Yeah.
And so that's why we view, like, teachers are heroes. Because you're like, this is rough. This is painful. I don't like it. It's frustrating.
I don't get paid enough. I don't.
I mean, for sure.
I mean, and that's, you know, one of the things. I'm not, nobody gets into this field because they're going to get paid.
Right.
I mean, it's just,
it's because you answer the calling.
Yeah.
And you have a passion and you have a love for it. That's rich. So we got a few more questions and then we'll get to rapid fire.
So I want to hop into this, this thought, because you said, you know, we don't get paid enough. And it's kind of been the joke recently, especially with school shutting down because of COVID-19 and us teaching online and the jump that we had to make so quickly. And how we've had to kind of change things. And that was definitely a moment we were like, people all over the U.S. were saying, dang, our teachers, they deserve to get paid more. And I'm like,
we should all get like an extra IT certificate.
Yes. Yes, we do. So I want to know, how have you been dealing with digital learning? How did it go back in the spring? And how are you getting ready to step into it again this fall, especially as an art teacher? I know it's got to be.
Yeah, I mean, it has its challenges, of course, because very hands-on. There's some things we definitely can't teach. Like my coworker teaches jewelry in high school, but that's going to have to change to a graphic design class. So we have to. We're trying to make adjustments and try to see what is going to work and how we're going to do it. But and in March, my kids did pretty good. My biggest problem that I had was kids not turning stuff in on time. Yeah. And I gave them grace because you had to. I mean, we were all going through the same thing. And so, but they were able to do it. It was just, also the time. This was the thing. This is one of the biggest things where I'm like, oh, why are we doing this? My kids didn't wake up till like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, I mean, my phone wouldn't start notifying. I mean, I'd be up at 7 o'clock because that's my work time, but I wouldn't have anything happening. And then come 3 or 4 o'clock, my notifications would start popping. So-and-so turned this in. So-and-so turned this in. Then I was like, oh, okay. So they're waking up or they're doing their stuff. They're sleeping all morning. And so I'm a little concerned about having, you know, first period at 7:15 in the morning digitally. Yeah. We'll have to see how that goes.
They gonna have to get up again. It's supposed to be like normal.
We got to take attendance and things, you know.
We built a bell again.
And my class is also one where there's the introduction and there's the you know, here's what we're going to do. But most of the time we're working and I'm walking around and I'm watching what they're doing.
And that's the hard part.
So that's going to be interesting. You know, they're just going to, I have, you know, Google Classroom and our e-class things and our phones. I mean, kids send me, like all summer I've been getting text messages from students showing me the artwork that they've been working on and asking me for stuff like that. But those, you know, those are the select few that are all on board with that. Right. So trying to get all the kids kind of in that mode, like they don't want to show you. They don't want to show you. They're scared. They think it's bad. They think it's not good. So they won't show you what's happening, you know, because they think you're going to tell them something bad. So I don't know, just trying to get them to just trust me in that sense is going to be interesting. There's a lot of projects. There's a lot of artists, art history. There's a lot of fabulous art teachers all around the country and all around the world in these Facebook groups that have all kinds of wonderful ideas. So we're just sharing stuff collaboratively, things that worked, things that didn't work, all kinds of resources.
So you're optimistic about the next year?
I mean, I am. There's no other. I mean, why I can't be any other way. You know? And if anything, it's just going to make me a better teacher. because then I can do
come
it
on.
anywhere.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Victor actually built me a background so that I can film some
Come on, Victor.
videos. So
I love it.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to make lemonade, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
out of lemons.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So I want our listeners to catch that. That was a trick question, and she answered it right. Are you optimistic? She was like, I don't have any other choice.
No, I have no other way to
But
be.
that is the mindset that we have to have.
Yeah.
Is it crappy? Is it weird? Is it
I wanted
frustrating?
to go back.
Yeah. It's like, but hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is, and
It
this
is
is
what
how-
it is.
mhm, yeah,
So either you
yeah.
get on with it or you find another profession, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at this moment here, we have to be positive.
Yeah.
Let's not focus on what's wrong with the quarantine and the COVID.
Right.
Let's focus on
Yeah.
what can be strong with it,
Yeah.
right? Let's focus on those things that are going to work out. Let's be optimistic before the year starts. Maybe you get hit in the mouth, but let's at least be hopeful for the best, right?
Yeah.
Because if you go into it a negative mindset, the year is done.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
and some of the points that you made of finding Facebook groups or
Oh,
whatever.
gosh, yeah.
Community,
And
I love it.
yes, that community where you can talk to other teachers, especially being an elective. It's so hard. Like I said, my best friend is a chorus teacher. There's
Yeah.
only one chorus teacher
Right,
at our
right, right.
school,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So who are you supposed to collaborate with?
Yeah.
You have to go outside
Yeah.
of your building. You have to go even sometimes outside of your county or your district, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You have to step outside of that and reach further and look for people who are doing things that are working.
That's what also why professional associations are so important too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm a member of the Georgia Art Educator Association, and that has really opened my career up to a lot of resources and a lot of people that I can be like, hey, what are you doing for this? Or hey, what are you doing for that? And then we, get together and collaborate because I, as an art teacher, need to collaborate with other visual arts teachers. I can't really sit in a class with math and language arts teachers and a planning period and kind of collectively collaborate because I'm not doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's just where a lot of the thinking of arts is kind of, it kind of gets thrown around and like they don't understand. They don't understand.
This is good. This is rich. So a few takeaways, right?
Yeah.
So one of my biggest takeaways is to be optimistic, right, about this next year, to be open, to join some different clubs, some different organizations that's in that field, right? And then to make sure that even when you go through those hard times, those challenging moments, like remind yourself why you're doing it, why you keep showing up, right? And then I love the fact that you really highlighted, hey, these kids are going through some things.
Yeah.
This is why they act the way they act. So those of you listening that you might not be into art, maybe you're into English history, like whatever it is, right? Really connecting with those kids, seeing what's going on, finding different ways to be amazing and next level and phenomenal, even though it's through a computer screen, right?
Yeah.
Because if you can tighten up your skills through a screen, how much more efficient will you be when you're live in person?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
person. Like,
Yeah.
I believe this season here is about to breed a whole new group of educators that's going to go to a higher level because they had to go through these moments right here. So if we can master Zoom and Google and all of those different, Cisco, WebEx, all those different areas that we're engaging, think about how much more powerful and strong we'll be when we're back in the classroom.
And our students as well.
Yeah.
Let's think about
Absolutely.
that. Like the
Yes.
fact that our students are having to learn new technology platforms that they've never experienced before. And we are as well as educators. And so we're giving them the opportunity. And I'll say, I want to give my students the opportunity to show me things that they love to do. And so I'm going to try and be a little more open on how they present their work at times to me. And so I noticed back in March and April and the beginning of May that I started to see that my students were great artists, that my students were great dancers, that they actually were good at editing videos and stuff like that, that they were capable of more because they had to step up because
You wouldn't have saw that in the classroom.
In the class, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think that there are some beautiful things that can come out of this time if we're willing to see it that way.
Yeah.
Here's a new wave I'm about to ride teachers on now. I'm about to challenge them to do the same thing that they've been pushing to their students. Try new things. Be open. Be optimistic. Give it a shot. Things aren't always going to be comfortable. Like, these are a lot of the things we're echoing. And then I was like, we have to try
Open
new things.
mindset.
Be open
Yeah,
mindset.
no,
Right.
we forget that,
Absolutely.
that we teach things and we tell kids, like my dad, do as I do, not do what I say, not as I do,
Right.
and so
That's
it's
the
like,
worst.
no,
Yes.
that's not, I need to be the example for my kids. I'm always open and honest about all of it, like my struggles and my things. I mean, I tell them about how it is. You know, I let them see that I'm a human being too.
Yep.
You know, I mean, so that way. I mean, I don't want to be in a classroom with someone who doesn't, you know, a teacher who just is above me or something. Yep. You know what I mean? So it's just really important, I think, to have that relationship.
We are about to hit you with the lightning round.
Oh, gosh.
You got 60 seconds.
Okay.
We're going to ask you 85 questions.
My best. 85?
Okay, maybe not 85.
Okay. All right.
We got a lot.
And go.
All right. Texting or talking on the phone?
Texting.
Oh. Okay. If you had a superpower, would it be invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility.
Oh, I like that. In the classroom, that's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite day of the week?
Friday.
Nice.
Yep. Okay. Who's your favorite Disney princess? I like this one.
Oh, I don't know. Ariel?
Okay.
What's your favorite junk food?
Doritos.
Okay. Regular?
No, regular.
Okay.
Regular.
I was going to say what color bag?
No,
because there's a lot
bag, the red bag.
Okay. Because there's a lot out there.
Nacho cheese.
Oh, yeah.
All
That
right.
Cool Ranch. Oh, that's not
Oh, no, I like
Go
the
ahead.
purple one.
Go ahead.
Okay. What is your favorite childhood TV show?
Oh, God. I don't know. Alf?
Oh, classic. Yeah.
All right. This is a good one. Who has it easier, men or women?
Oh, man, that's tough. I think it depends on the situation. Is that a right answer?
All right. We'll leave it there.
It has been a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Lynn.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for being amazing. Thank you for being phenomenal. Thank you for being
thank you for
artsy and
calling me
funky
that.
and different and open and honest with us. You know, saying thank you for going above and beyond for the kids. Thank you for having a heart that will put you in the middle of a fight. Then you said, okay, let me back up, right? And when you almost broke, and you almost quit, you showed back up, and you're still there. Thank you for being open and optimistic to what's to come in the future. And thank you for breathing life back into art, because it's clearly vibing and growing and flourishing in the world.
God, it is. Everywhere.
But we just need to do better as far as the school is concerned. So thank you for hanging out with us.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you guys for listening. Thank you for hopping on and following. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast.
Yes.
Don't forget to give us that 5-star rating. Leave us some reviews, some comments there. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram as well.
Yep. One Next Level Teaching. Yep.
Got it.
And we'll see y'all next week.
Bye, guys.
See ya.